Breathe, take a deep breath, focus on yourself and be happy. And get ready for a simple class that is not related to a specific process. While people get ready, you'll hear some noise, it doesn't matter. It's just everyone getting ready for class. Hi guys, doing well? I hope. BrahmaCitta, been a while, I've seen you. Cool. Alright. Allow the Shakti to go through your surface and burn or, activate. If you prefer a softer term. Allow the Shakti to penetrate you. Whatever that means for you. Alright, the translators are almost ready. The class this week is not part of a specific long process. It's a spout of wisdom based on experiences I've had this week. Answers to questions that were made. And my own personal quest. And there's a Siddhi, of course. BrahmaCitta, the mind of Brahma. Alright, so if you practice BrahmaCitta without the initiation, just BrahmaCitta, the mind of Brahma, the human ego will do a few mistakes right off the bat. The human ego contemplating BrahmaCitta will start to want to understand what is Brahma thinking, or I know what Brahma's thinking, or what is the mind of Brahma, and those questions are going to keep you low in your global perspective, because the mind of Brahma cannot possibly fit in the human mind, but you can receive a stream of it, and anything you could conceive as a human will not be as high quality as if you give it time to reveal itself. So we contemplate BrahmaCitta, the mind of Brahma. As a reflex, contemplate the third eye. Well, if you go there, of course, but the mind of Brahma cannot be limited to a specific area or chakra. BrahmaCitta, the mind of Brahma, is not of intellectual value or focusing on a third eye. There's no technique like that in this initiation. There's many other techniques. I would say BrahmaCitta, focus here and there with colors and everything, but not today. Today we practice BrahmaCitta just to get a basic understanding of what are the possibilities. BrahmaCitta. More consciousness will happen. Information could be revealed, but the mind of Brahma is everything. I'll use a story, a metaphor. In psychology, we say that every character in a dream is a facet of you. So if you dream of people and you think that you will dream of a specific person, yeah, there could be revelation, more or less. You know, the mysticism is still real, but what you felt, it's about you. Your experience is what this person made you feel in the dream. It's not the real person in real life. It's just what it evokes. What's the role of this person? Because you play the role of every person in your dream. Okay? More or less in this way, as a metaphor, every human individual is a character in Brahma's dream. In the sense that we are all an aspect of Brahma, and not just human beings, anything that can display consciousness, anything, it's part of Brahma. And everything that doesn't display consciousness, like a rock, is Vishnu, which is part of Brahma by the band, okay? So instead of talking too much about what you're supposed to feel or experience with BrahmaCitta, I will explain what prevents you from receiving the actual revelation. Okay. This week, 3 notable communications I had, one of which is someone discrediting me, not agreeing with my teachings. A former student who studied with me, which is fine. Freedom is absolute. Another correspondence is someone who doesn't challenge the teaching but asks, what are my sources, my references? Like, who said that? In which book? I don't know. I said, the Buddha said this thing. But when I read the sutras, I was so much more interested in what I was living as an experience to gain the wisdom than actually which book I was reading. Because I read so much. Originals translated, originals in English and French, translated to English and French from so many different masters. I don't remember where I read what. And you know what? The majority of what I've gained in terms of wisdom was not even through reading books. It was sitting in temples with masters doing actual work on myself, doing the practice. So when someone says, well, in which book is it written? Like, what's your source? And because if you don't have the source, you know, the literature and the scriptures of any tradition is what gives it legitimacy. Well, that's the opinion of that person. Because for me, what is legitimate is the actual practice you've done, which is not written anywhere. It's what was revealed through long periods of disciplined practice. Okay? So yeah, there's this, the first communication was a full discredit. It's not like if I needed it, so it's cool. The second one was, but it's, what you teach is not valid if you cannot support it with scriptures. Well, the majority of what I teach, I've learned through actual experience. There are no scriptures. And if I say something that contradicts Jesus or Buddha, well, this is my experience now. Now I'm just sharing my experience. And the third communique that I got was someone who studied with me in the past, who now studies with another master. And he wrote, Maha, I'm studying with this master now, and I want to tell you how grateful I am for all the time I spent with you. Everything I learned with you gave me so much insight in what that other master teaches. Because without all the basic tools to understand spirituality and consciousness, he would not have been able to absorb whatever that other person is teaching at that level of quality, I imagine. But basically, an email of gratitude for someone who stopped studying with me and expresses his gratitude for what he has learned through the experience. Okay, so these 3 emails are a good example of a maturing process as a spiritual adult. Okay, I am not a specialist of Freud at all. I don't even like the guy. I prefer Carl Jung, even if I barely know the philosophy of Carl Jung anyway. But there's one thing that I really appreciate of Freud's teaching. I don't even like the way he says it. Kill the father. Because of Freud's teaching on the Oedipus complex, where someone is in love with the mother and wants to kill his father, we have to understand a bit deeper. The process of killing the father inside is an expression that was used a long time ago when only men were in power. So the father was the only one with authority. What Freud was expressing is the need of someone to free themselves from the figure of authority or the figure of power in their life, or get rid of the father inside. And every therapist who studies psychology, I believe, know that at one point a teenager, and we're not talking spirituality, we're talking real life, becoming an adult, you will want to destroy the image of your parents in order to free yourself from them, so you can in turn become an adult. Or else you can't. You can't become an adult if you did not defy what represents authority for you. Okay? It's a normal part of maturation. Okay? It's good to see that we all have different places. Okay? So, of course, the person discrediting what they learned with me, it's a person that for a decade was praising the wisdom that they got with me. But at one point, they completely turned like, fuck that. This guy was wrong. I was full of shit. This is not good. But what they teach today is filled of what they've learned with me. It doesn't matter. What matters is that person is in a process of killing the father, getting rid of this external image of authority so that he can become autonomous, which is an important part of the process. It can be harsh and aggressive, it can be violent, it can be soft, compassive, detached, like, I don't need you anymore. I'll just go in my way. But there is sometimes a revolt, okay, which is completely acceptable. This is how teenagers stop being the children of their parents, but become adult themselves. And then with your own parent, you speak as an adult to an adult, even if the bloodline is that you're a child. And you still have gratitude for what your parents brought to you, but you can list everything you don't agree on how they raised you. And then you turn around and you do your mistakes as a parent, because no one's perfect. You understand that? Then there's this person who's just expressed his gratitude, like, what I learned with you is super, but now I want to study with someone else. It's like, hey, freedom is absolute. I'm just so glad that this person is on their path. And then there's a person in the middle. Well, how can you validate, like, if you can't back your teachings with actual structures, literature, scriptures from various masters, like, what is the validity of your teaching? It's like, it's a point of view. It's one point of view that you need to back everything with what someone has written. But what was written, I mean, I spent so much time even writing articles on it about how translations from Pali to Chinese, Chinese to English, destroyed part of the meaning of some sutras. We practice the Four Noble Truths. The first one is there is suffering. The Buddha did not use the word suffering. He used the word disquietude, any state that is not peace. And suffering is just a part of it. Okay? Irritation, discomfort is also part of it. So, okay, I don't want to go too much on that. The fact that we need to back spiritual wisdom with written arguments by other people, it means that we have not integrated it through experience. It is useful to back the validity of a teaching with scriptures, but someone who depends on scriptures is stuck in the head and not incarnate in the wisdom. That happens because we're afraid to be wrong. We need to know the truth. That person wrote to me just 2 weeks ago, Maha, are you truly enlightened? I think I shared a video of that. So of course not. I'm not truly enlightened. And they use terms like true enlightenment and perfect enlightenment. The moment that you mention perfect, it cannot fit in Brahma's mind. It is a dualistic concept with imperfection. Perfection, imperfection. Do you understand what I mean? So these are the two things that are in the way of the BrahmaCitta. Okay? Of being able to embrace something greater than you in Brahma's mind. And then it absolutely transforms you from the inside. The first thing is the dependency to an external figure of power. This lie that we have that someone greater than me is guiding me. Well, there is a part of truth in there when you acknowledge your incompetence in spirituality and seek to study with a competent spiritual master. That's just to recognize someone's skill. Go get a teacher that will be useful for you. However, the emotional dependency to a higher power, like my master is so great, which is something you can acknowledge if it's really a great master. The dependency, this thing about my wisdom is good because I had that master. Truly, if you want to express that your wisdom is good, it should be my wisdom is good because I spent a decade disciplined into the practice, into doing the practice, or more, than a decade, but persistence, not just reading, but going through life experience and applying the wisdom to become a better person. Now, if someone says, I don't have credibility because I don't have titles, or I cannot recite the Upanishads or the Rig Vedas and cite where which wisdom is, okay, it's useful because, charlatanism any charlatan could say whatever they want. But true wisdom will never be gained through accumulating knowledge. Accumulating knowledge is a useful backup. All right? So the father figure is one thing, and the external validation of your wisdom is another thing. Okay? And these are the two concepts that were brought up to me this week. To embrace BrahmaCitta, you must go through a phase where you are lost, where no one will be there to save you from ignorance. You'll have to learn by yourself. And there is no real proof of wisdom. Oh, this is a hard one. There is absolutely no proof of wisdom. If you studied with Mahavajra, it is not a valid proof that you have gained that wisdom. If you can recite the scriptures of 5 different traditions, know the passage in the books, it is not a valid proof that you have incarnate and embraced the wisdom. The wisdom is there through your behavior, through the results of your actions, through what you inspire with your words. There will be no external validation in the end. Another reason why I was considering to abolish the Vibhavapat, like completely remove the system of 22 stages or the 10 bhumis, to identify if someone is awakened, enlightened, Buddha, or avatar, or anything like that, is the fact that these titles are used as a reference for others. And they are so misunderstood. An avatar is a human being going through personal trials. A Buddha is a human being going through personal trials. These words were deified to make them unnatural. These words were deified like by the Buddhists that only the Buddha can be the Buddha and no one else can accomplish it. While the teachings of the Buddha is that everyone eventually will as they evolve through lifetimes. And when he got angry, it was written in the sutras that he got angry. So what is this thing about? To be truly enlightened, you have to be completely free of anger. And that master, who didn't say that, but that's how it was translated. It was translated that you have to never be angry to be a Buddha. Well, he was a Buddha, he was angry sometimes. It's written. As you see, there's a conflict there of trying to use these old masters, these antique and ancient masters, to validate these definitions, because all we have is written material that we assimilate in the head. This written liturgy, the sutras, the scriptures, is extremely helpful to maintain the tradition. But wisdom only comes by living it, practicing it. All right? There is no external validation of wisdom. BrahmaCitta is to not be right about something. To not be certified of a level of evolution or spiritual title. To not count on your previous accomplishments to justify how good a teacher you are. If you go into a new crowd that doesn't know you, and you don't say what is your credibility, and you just teach something inspired on the moment, and they are inspired to evolve and become better people, that's the validity of your wisdom. The effect you have when it flows to someone else, when it keeps going. That's BrahmaCitta. Brahma is a single stream of consciousness through all sentient beings. Validating yourself through any form of Cartesian measure, like the 10 bhumis or the 22 vibhavas, this is invalid. It's not real. It's human tools that we use to help us understand where we are, what is the next trial. And for that reason, I keep the tool for myself. But the public announcement of titles, I don't do that anymore, because it brought confusion and false adoration. And if you back yourself with PhDs and knowledge of literature, it does give you credibility, human to human. It does. But it's not true wisdom. You see, there seems to be a duality in what I'm teaching, because true is in duality with untrue or false wisdom. These are the words that I have to express to you what I want to teach. These are the methods that I have to be able to express the wisdom, the BrahmaCitta, the mind of Brahma, is not something that you'll sit BrahmaCitta and say, oh, now I know what Brahma's thinking. It's not like if the universe could suddenly be understood by a single entity, such as you. You will get insight. So a trick that I will give you, if you want to be certain of your correct approach to divine wisdom, is you'll never speak in absolute. An example of speaking absolute. I know what Brahma wants. I finally have felt Vishnu. On the moment that you feel it, you should just say it because it feels good, okay? But then you start to believe it. I felt Vishnu. You know, speaking absolutes like this, it's not real. It's impossible. I know more of Vishnu. I've experienced something of Vishnu. I've experienced Vishnu without the belief of all of it. Like, if you say, I finally understand what is Shiva, that's an absolute. If you say, I've gained an experience of Shiva, suggesting that it's not all of it, it's something that comes from Shiva. I have felt Shiva, yeah, but not affirming all of Shiva. If you feel all of Shiva, you cease to exist. So you probably have felt a part of it, okay? The human phrase is, I finally felt Vishnu. You should say it that way, because you don't want to limit your moment of greatness by, I have just felt something that feels like Vishnu and maybe it's okay for me to say it. Don't block the poetry of the moment. Just, wow, I feel Vishnu. This is so awesome. I'm one with all things. Yeah. Live it. Embrace it. And do not make this worth something for you. Do not allow it to give you importance. And once the integration of this revelation happens, I have progressed. You don't say, I'm finally accomplished, I've learned all lessons. No, I have progressed. I feel greater than I was before. Do not speak in absolutes. Do not say that you have finally evolved beyond the limitations of a human. You know, any kind of absolute declaration of your supremacy as a spiritual being is a falsehood. Jesus, just a few days before ascension, was trialed, and he said, keep this cup away from me, which is a Hebrew way of saying, keep temptation away from me. He felt tempted, and it was hard. It was a moment of hardship. Now, moments before his accomplishment, Father, why have you abandoned me? For a moment, he had projected that something else had abandoned him. He was in a state of projection. And also in a state of, he didn't kill his father, which is a bad way to say it. Very Freudian. But it's basically Jesus had not killed his father and didn't get rid of this higher authority over him. It was funny. Same with Krishna, it's not really expressed clearly, but he felt a disappointment and then he went away from Arjuna when he realized that Arjuna was going to take a while to understand the lesson. Sakyamuni, disappointed on his last emotion of life, anger and disappointments to the students who didn't understand the profound wisdom of the moment, because the Buddha wanted to live, but it was time for him to go. In Dharma, it was time for his students to lose their master, because they were not going to find freedom until the master dies and until they are without this figure authority. And he's expressed it in a nebulous way, so I'm not going to try to explain it. But he did express his disappointment about how they didn't get the final lesson he was trying to push. Someone that I consider extremely advanced spiritually, Rishidva, goes through trials. A student of ours, a student of me in Rishidva, a few weeks ago told me, I spoke to you, Maha, and you told me that you had a suffering of this and that. And a few days before, I had spoken with Rishidva, and you had a trial of this and that. And she said, it is so refreshing to know people like you at your level of power and wisdom have these trials. Of course, we resolve it in moments and days instead of weeks or months or years. We accomplish quick. We're efficient with the tools of personal growth. However, the Dharma, the Karma, and the Prakti, it's all here. We're in it. We live it. It's a jungle here. It's nature. Yeah. So, all that we do to put other people on pedestals. Great masters are awesome because they inspire us. But you will not make it until you free yourself from the figure that you adore. And switch it to gratitude for all the wisdom that you got from it. No, adoration to gratitude. It's a shift. Instead of being a spiritual child or a spiritual teenager, become a spiritual adult. And you'll speak to your master as an adult to an adult, and your master might tell you to go and fuck yourself if you're full of shit. Or might say that you have just gotten a great insight and it is wonderful. But you'll be an adult, not seeking validation from a master, but just hoping for more inspiration because that's his role. Okay? These are examples that I'm giving. These are the examples that I'm giving to understand what is between you and the absolute authority in the universe, which is Brahma. The one consciousness of all consciousness. As you practice BrahmaCitta, if it naturally makes your third eye blow up and flash in colors, it will naturally happen. If you get transported somewhere, it will naturally happen. I won't say you should be incarnate while doing BrahmaCitta, or you should do it until you transcend. It is not my place to say how BrahmaCitta will reveal itself, because it is, the Siddhi is greater than an explanation about it. It is the Siddhi of something greater than the practice of a Siddhi. But that's why we do it. It will surpass our expectations of this. There will be no reference to explain what we have learned or what was revealed. It can be very objective and concrete. I finally understood how rocks are made. Or it could be like, I just lived something extraordinary, but I would not be able to put words on it. I clearly know what I've experienced, but I don't know what was that, but it's obvious. I'm living it. It can be abstract, concrete. Let BrahmaCitta carry you beyond your need of an authority, beyond the validity of wisdom, beyond being right about something. And accept that what will come does not require to be explained. Could be, if it happens to be. Doesn't have to. Could be fun. You see no limitation about it. That's BrahmaCitta. And whenever you practice it, your ego will try. What is my role in Brahma's plan? Right there, that's a flaw. What role? There's no role. You're there. You're experiencing. I had someone I love very much this week tell me, I wonder what is my role in that family. I understood. We need to be part of something. We need to identify our position. And you see, as a human, it is useful to know that. What is your role in the business? What is your role in your group of friends? But it is something invalid in the greater scheme of things, in the greater experience. BrahmaCitta will have you lose your identity. You'll feel you lost with questions like, what is my mission in life as a human? What is my spiritual mission? That question is a flawed question. There is no mission. You are here and you're discovering stuff through experience. That's a factual truth because you are. It is subjective because you can't prove it, but it is empirical because you can't deny it and it's obvious. Your role in the eyes of Brahma is a flawed concept. So to feel that you don't know where is your place in the universe, that is a challenge of the ego. Because I won't say in Brahma's mind because I don't know how I could express it at that level, but I'll say in Shiva's mind, your place in the universe is here, whatever that means. Your role in the universe is be you, whatever that means. And the more you define your role, the further you are from the truth of what you are. It's a very Zen practice of being in the moment, not having a proof of how useful you are to other humans. But when you see other humans benefit from your influence, you feel good. You did not need someone else to acknowledge that you were good. You just see it. Yeah, I did a good thing. Like the students who denies my teaching, but teaches what they've learned with me. And someone asked me a few weeks ago, doesn't it bother you that they teach what you teach and they deny you were a great master? And I replied, I don't care. My objective was for the wisdom to flow, and the wisdom is flowing. This master hasn't killed his father, didn't get rid of the authority figure yet. It's okay. They still need to be in denial of the former master. But my goal is achieved. That wisdom is flowing to new generations of students. It works. It's perfect. Getting validation from your students is a flaw. I think it was yesterday that I said, if it hurts me, because someone said a comment, if it disturbs me that they don't believe my credibility. It's because I need to be believed in something. You know, when that person about the scripture, and all I could answer is, I don't know where I read it, okay? But the moment that it did disturb me, that person doesn't believe me because I cannot support it with scriptures. If it disturbed me, it's because I needed someone to feel my credibility. Do you understand what I mean? It was useful for me as an ego to count on an external person validating me. So, oh, I liked it. I liked the revelation. It disturbed me that I cannot support my wisdom through scriptures because they might lose faith in me, and that disturbs me. Because if I need someone else to have faith in me, it's useful for me. I have use for that. It was insightful. I liked it. So let me go into a state of loss. I'm losing credibility. And I sat there, mourning credibility, finding liberation. Felt so good. Losing credibility felt good. And this is when I thought, good, I'm going to teach BrahmaCitta. There is no credibility in the great wisdom we get from Brahma. There is no credibility. True life events is what validates if it works or not. You know, it's really, really cool. So that was the teaching of BrahmaCitta. It's cool, huh? I hope you were inspired by that. Thank you, guys. This week's practice is BrahmaCitta. Next week, I will decide probably on the spot again which Siddhi I teach. I think we're going to have, it feels like for a few weeks, I'm going to see what happens. I'm just going to throw the teachings of the week instead of having an actual process. And it's going to be fun because it teaches us very deep concepts inside. And I find that it's useful for now. All right. Peace.